approximately at a 1-to-1 slope, which is usually an engineered slope requiring geotechnical specifications, supervision, etc. It would be very difficult to establish and hold a 1-to-1 slope with loam and seed. Commission could request or require a construction detail for the slope. Representing the applicant, you want to come up, if you've got something to show us, you want to bring it up in here so we can see it?
Want to bring it?
Yeah, you can, and bring the mic up with you so you,
What would you, okay.
What would you like?
can you, is that the same plan that we have?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and please identify yourself for the record.
I didn't hear you, what?
Identify yourself for the record.
Okay,
please.
I'm William Corbett. I'm the father of David Corbett and Holly Corbett. I put this all together for them.
Joshua Borden on behalf of Arthur F. Borden and Associates, an address at 302 Broadway in Rainham.
Okay, do we get any, what do we get for this? Any cards?
15 cards in the.
Oh, yes,
Thank you. And are you aware of these comments from the engineer?
I had not seen those comments from the engineer as of.
Okay, you can get a copy of those from
Yeah,
the
they
office.
just came in late today, so.
Yeah, you could get me a copy of those.
Okay, okay. Go ahead.
Okay, this whole project is brought together because of, well, first of all, safety issues, okay? Let me show you. People again. Put these packets together for the area that we're working on. Okay, the first thing we had on the one issue, we had the family dog chasing a ball, ran over the edge, went tumbling down. Fortunately, he didn't get seriously hurt, so that was one issue. The other time, we had my granddaughter driving the car, hit the fence, car went down almost to the wall, stopped fortunately, and she was able to roll out, she didn't get hurt. So that's the first issue that we want to address, that's why we're doing this, is for safety, as well as the, as you look at the pictures, you'll see what's back there now. It's, there's a wall, which is, I guess, the last remaining remnants of what used to be a factory. And, as you can see, that's just a straight drop off, and there's a lot of rubble in the back that was used for fill, and that in itself is dangerous and ugly. And what we're trying to do is make the yard more useful than it now is. The first picture shows you that wall, the first wall. The second picture is where we want to slope it from the first wall down to the boundary line, okay? And as you can see, there's trees there, whatever, that have come down, the shallow rooted trees that aren't going to stay up, they, come down. So we want to eliminate that problem. The third picture is showing the left-hand side of the house where it's just a sheer drop and it's rubble fill. The yard is completely useless at that point. So what we're going to try to do is landscape it down into that so that the yard is useful all the way around and safe, okay? And then the last picture is a picture of what we hope it to look like when we're done. All right? So, with that, we know it's within the boundaries of the Rivers Act and the wetlands, and we're trying to be respectful of that. And the DEP, when I filled these out, they sent back and they said, what are your alternatives? And what we looked at first is building another wall in the back, and we found out that that's going to be very expensive, very disruptive to the area, and we wanted to avoid that. We looked at extending the wall that's there, and again, no engineer will say, well, that's a safe wall, okay, without digging it all up. Again, very expensive, very disruptive. So the final thing that we want to do now is just backfill to the wall, and slope it down to the boundary line, staying within our own jurisdiction, because going beyond that is just not an option. Okay, we can't go into the other properties, and we're not going to. So we're gonna stay within the boundaries, and it's mostly bringing in backfill, grading the area, making it safe, and actually improving the area. If you look at that first picture of the wall there, you'll see there's some rebar sticking up, and that's, you know, right up in here, the first picture. There's some rebar sticking up, and that's pretty much what's back there. And by doing it the way we're gonna do it, backfill it, make it level and a slope, it's gonna make it much safer, much cleaner, and better for the environment. The other thing I wanted to bring up is on the print here, it shows that we're gonna use bales of hay to contain the area. Rather than do that, we'd rather use the silk sock, and, you know, I've been told that's much better for the environment and the area, and so that's what we'd like to do.
Okay. Landis?
I can completely understand why you want to do this. I did go out to the site and looked at it, and also with the pictures, I can see the hazards in the back. I think it's, as your notice discusses, 2,450 square feet of the outer riparian area, which is under 5,000 square feet. So I think it would be allowable under the Wetlands Protection Act. I sort of agree with the town engineer, though. I'm not sure how you're going to put all this fill on already a steep grade, at a steep grade, and have it stay there. And you're gonna grade down to this other wall, or just short of the second wall?
Right to the second one. It's
Right
going
to the second wall, right. So logistically,
We can do some sort of geo grid or whatever whatever the commission needs to make themselves feel good to stabilize that. There are ways to stabilize that.
so I would agree with the town engineer that we would need some more engineered detail on how the slope is gonna be graded and stabilized afterwards. Comments.
Okay. That's something you feel you could work with the,
We can certainly,
Applicant with-
if the commission was willing to conditionally approve it tonight, we can work with the town engineer to come up with something that will that he will sign off on to move this project along. I know the Corbetts are really looking to get this done. They have no backyard right now.
No, I completely understand. When I went out and took a look at the site, I saw the rear, and then I went over to the left side of the house,
Yeah, you did.
unknowing really what was actually there, and started to walk to the edge. And if I had taken one more step, I would
Yeah,
have
it's,
been.
yeah, I was.
I would have been
did
down there.
I did the original existing
Yeah.
conditions topo. It
So
was not fun
that's-
to be out there.
it's-
So
It's not safe.
no.
It's definitely not safe. Something needs to be done, so.
And to the first comment that the engineer had about the sewer easement there, we're not impeding on that at all, so. But we can show that on, well, I will add that to the plans.
are you comfortable with working with them on that?
Yeah.
Okay. Doug?
I don't have anything beyond what Landis
Okay.
just brought up.
Emilio?
Yeah, I'm not clear on, you want to put fill on, but it's without building a wall, so how are you going to change the grade?
We're gonna fill in and slope it down to that existing wall there.
But it's going to be the same slope, the wall is
It's gonna be a steeper slope.
steeper slope. So how's that better?
Because it's gonna expand the
fence.
backyard a little, flatten out the backyard a little bit to that first wall that's there. And then we gotta slope it down to that second wall to make everything work.
So that first wall's going to remain,
It's gonna be buried a little bit, yeah.
be buried. So
And then there's gonna be a fence put along the top of the slope there. A nice, I think, what are we doing, a vinyl fence or something?
Yeah, well, we have signed probably chain link fence, that's
on
it.
this wall, on this?
On that wall,
No,
Yeah.
it's
yes.
proposed right there.
Yeah.
He's saying on the first wall or the second wall?
First wall. That
First
wall
one.
there,
So you're not putting fill beyond that?
No,
that's where we're gonna fill from. We're gonna fill
Here.
to it and slope it down to the lower wall.
So let me ask you again, the fence is gonna be where? On this wall or the
On that,
second wall?
on the first wall that you just pointed,
First wall.
right there.
Yeah, this wall, if you look at if you're looking at the plan, the wall, there's a wall almost like 5 feet off the property line, and then there's another wall.
You want to show that, lift that up
Yeah,
so
I
we
can't
can
see
see
it.
it?
Say about, you got a wall
This one.
that's running right along the property line about a foot
That's what I'm
up.
saying,
And
yeah.
then we're coming up from that wall to the existing wall that's there. And we're gonna flatten off everything that's here right now to this wall. This wall right here is gonna get buried a little bit, and we're gonna put a fence on top of that. So there's an existing chain link fence that runs along the backyard right now.
Right, I see that. So
So
the fence is gonna be pointed out to me.
the fence is gonna be right here.
Right.
Right along the top of the slope.
So, again, why are you putting fill beyond that fence then?
Because because there is a little bit of a grade change between this fence
Right,
and
but-
this wall. It drops,
Right.
and then you get to that wall, it drops again considerably.
Right, so why would you put a fence there then, I guess, if you're filling beyond it?
Because of the drop.
We're not filling, we're flattening out the grade in here,
If,
and then you're filling back to the second wall.
It'll still be a pretty steep grade, but it
Yeah.
won't be a outright drop of
Yeah.
what, 4
so you're
feet?
gonna fill there.
Because right
and
now,
grade down.
it drops almost.
Yeah,
right down.
I can see by the picture, yeah, so. You're taking the trees down then?
Yes,
Are you gonna clear that all out? Okay.
and then planted and re-landscaped and stuff, so it looks nice.
Okay.
Anything else?
That's it.
Roger?
Well, what are you putting on that other area where you're taking the trees out, the dead trees and other trees, that slope? Are you planting that slope with
Well,
grass?
I guess the question is, what would the commission like?
Yeah, that's what we need more information on, whatever to make it stable.
Yeah, we have.
Engineered
We're gonna
stable
work
slope.
we're gonna work with the town engineer to figure out what we need to do to stabilize it, to make it.
Now, is there gonna be a wall down below?
There's an existing wall down there already.
What's the depth of that, height of that existing wall?
The existing wall at I wanna say,
Say 4 feet.
I'd say 4 or 5 feet high. So you go, right now, you get to the chain link fence that's
Just hold it
there.
up so we can see what you're talking about.
Sorry. So you get to the chain link fence that's there now, then it slopes off to a wall that runs right here. That wall then drops straight down like 4 or 5 feet, and then it slopes off to the second wall that then drops off again another 4 or 5 feet.
It seems like we have another hazard there, the 4 or 5 feet drop off on the second wall as
And
well as the
there's
first
not much
wall.
we can do because the property line for our property is only a foot off the back of that wall.
Oh,
And
so
we're matching the existing grade along the top of that wall.
So the second wall is already there,
Yes.
and that's on another property line.
It's a foot onto our property.
It's a foot on your property?
So there's nothing that we can really do on the other side of that wall. Because it's not on our property.
Okay, but still, the wall is on your property, so if someone gets hurt, how do you handle that?
Well, there's gonna be a fence here that goes right along the property line, so anyone who would get behind it would have to come off of our property to get onto.
How many feet is difference is there between the two walls?
Between the two walls,
Horizontal.
it's probably about 10 feet linearly between the two walls.
And what is the grade, that's gonna be the same grade?
It's
or-
gonna be the same grade at that second wall. Yeah, we're grading down to the top of that second wall.
And you're about 200 feet back from the pond?
The 200-foot outer riparian is right here. So we're a little bit in it over here. There's about 2,400 square feet of disturbance in the outer riparian, which under the State Wetlands Protection Act, with the permission of the commission.
reserve the right to ask more questions.
Yeah, Betsy?
Okay, no comment.
Anybody in the audience have any questions or comments? Please identify yourself for the record. Okay. Yes. Identify yourself, please.
John Hassey, 11 Pinnacle Drive, which is the abutter, on two sides of the property. I can't really, I don't have a copy of the plan to talk about, but basically, I am not opposed to the residents improving their backyard or doing safety or aesthetic activity that will make it more usable or livable. But I object to the plan itself as being inadequate. I think there's a number of issues, but basically, I think the plan needs to be redone and reissued. Primarily because when you don't show utilities and town easements on the property, and you're constructing or doing activity on it, the other departments in town, if that isn't shown there, they're not aware that you may be obstructing or interfering with the town utility or the repair and maintenance of the town easements. There's a sewer main that runs through there. So that plan needs to be redone with proper survey or from another plan, transpose it to show the sewer and water easements and the elevations of the manholes in the sewer main that runs from East Walpole, Misty Lane, Pinnacle Drive, through that side yard there. So that's one thing that needs to be added to the plan. I think the other thing is, from a safety point of view, since I'm the owner of the wall and back there, I mean, I'm certainly willing to cooperate if they want to do something to enhance the safety as far as a fence installation or a retaining wall that provides an increased level of safety and or stormwater runoff protection, what have you. They haven't asked me about that, but I think if they're worried about working with, in the area of that wall, I think that could certainly be amenably, cooperatively resolved, given recommendations that your commission would have for that. The plan also, well, it just, the stormwater and runoff drainage issue of, dispensing runoff and stormwater in your neighbor's property, that it's obviously becomes an issue when you take the trees out and regrade. As Mr. Griglio mentioned, regrade it to a steeper level between their property and the wall, that becomes an issue. And maybe that can be addressed. But I think they have to start with the proper plan. I think that, I have no objection, I think that the engineer is using some historical data on the riparian lines, which is okay with me, as long as he puts on their plus or minus, because that's from 7 or 8 years ago, I think, the data he's using. I think they should consider a retaining wall that would be more permanent and substantive as far as holding the earth back in the possibility of slippage and movement of all the fill they're gonna bring in. And I don't know why that wasn't considered, but I think that would be probably the best thing. And the only other thing is that they, see what happened, the concern really is, and this is sidebar to what I'm saying, but I understand the purpose. Once you approve that plan and they do this, let's say they sell the house, and the next person wants to put a pool in, or it goes to do something else. Now, there's nothing on that plan that would even let the building inspector or anybody else know that there's a sewer line under there. I think it might end up putting retaining walls or a pool or some.
Well, you already covered that, and they have mentioned too,
And
that
can I-
they will
can I
show
address
that.
that?
Can I
that they
address
would
that?
do. Just a minute. So that's, you've covered that, that they need to show that, and they've been indicated they would do that,
I
so.
think that if they, and I don't know if it's an economic thing or not, but if they wanted to do something more safe and permanent, I'm happy to cooperate with them on that aspect, so they don't have to create that runoff, because I would object I notice on your meeting tonight.
The
you have this-
stormwater management standards doesn't apply to a single-family lot, so they do not have to address that.
So they can have runoff onto a neighbor's property.
The
stormwater.
Wetlands Protection Act doesn't, but that's not in the stormwater standards.
It's what?
That's not in the stormwater, a single-family lot does not have to comply with stormwater standards.
Well, maybe not in the conservation domain.
Well, this is the
In
Conservation
public- I know,
Commission,
but
so
in the
we're
public
within their
domain,
domain.
You may create another liability.
So
by
that's a
dispensing
civil issue, so
stormwater. And,
move on. Does not
well,
apply.
Mr. Viglio, and the other thing he mentioned was about taking the trees out, because that was part of, I mean, this is all just the stormwater data for that site. I mean, so there was previous stabilization and so forth, and if you change it, that's fine, I have no objection. I'd like you to be safe, I'd like you to be happy, I want you to use your yard. And I'm just saying, there would be no excuse for them not building a more substantive retaining wall and doing things more appropriately, not to have runoff and to have better safety and support of the wall, and not get rid of the fence. That would be the other thing I would worry about, is there is a fence there now. They're taking that fence out, I think that the fence.
The
replaces it.
fence,
We're
the
replacing
fence,
the fence.
the fence remains, it's just relocated.
So, but I seriously would
No.
request that the plan be redone so the other departments have.
Yeah, that's
have-
true. Well, that'll be done.
DPW and engineering
Now,
and.
that'll be done.
Sewer
I
water.
think the,
The town engineer's letter said the same thing. so.
Thank you.
Um,
And to
I
once
would
again, to
think-
address the town engineer's comments about the drainage and the sewer easement. The sewer easement is on this lot line right here. It's 15 feet off of this lot line right here. We are not doing any grading, any grade change, anything in this area. So I can add that to, I will certainly add that to the plan.
should be shown on the
Yeah.
plan.
It will be shown on any subsequent plan, but there is no work within that easement at all. So if at some point someone came along and wanted to put a pool back there, they'd have to come back to you people again, because they're within the outer riparian possibly. But it wouldn't be impeding any sewer drain or water.
Well, you don't have to worry about that. That's not in front of us at the moment.
This is what it looks like.
All right, we have that information from the town engineer, where the easement is. So that'll be shown. You feel comfortable with working with the applicant?
Well,
We're
I
getting
think
s-
the applicant, as the town engineer has stated, needs to provide information regarding an engineered slope, excuse me, the specifications that it's been looked at by an engineer, and that what the outcome is gonna be a stable slope, because it is a one-to-one steep slope, so. If you can provide that information, we can write, if the commission so feels it, they can write that in as a condition, that the work cannot,
And
you
that's
can't
fine with us.
do the work until we receive that and the revised
We're
plan
more than
showing the
willing to
sewer
work with the
easement.
town engineer
Yep.
to get them.
Other than the Wetlands Protection Act, I think.
Well, then, I have an additional comment. So that engineer, is that you? Are you the engineer, or?
I'm not the engineer,
Oh,
but
okay.
I am one of the people who worked on the plan, but I will have my engineer look at it.
So the engineer should also look at the wall, which is probably ancient, just to make sure.
They've had an engineer look at it, and there's not much that can be done with that wall.
Well, no, that's not the question. Like, is the wall in its present condition able to handle what you're going to be adding to that slope? So I think that the engineer should also sort of sign off on the safety of the wall. Otherwise, it could buckle or something, or be affected in some way.
Well, that issue was looked at, and that's one of the issues when the DEP asked for alternative methods. And that is going to be very, very expensive. It means we'd have to go into the other property, very disruptive to everything, and it would just financially be ridiculous to do.
So the engineer already said the wall is not,
No, they wouldn't even comment on it because they'd have to dig down. Just the exploratory part of it would be very expensive
I-
to determine.
You're talking about the first wall, and I think he's
Second
talking
wall.
about the second wall. So,
We've got two walls. There are
one
two
wall is
walls
being
here.
buried, and one wall, the grading is it's grading, coming
up to the wall.
up
To
to
the-
the second
Down
wall.
here,
Okay.
Down here.
And so is that wall up for it? I mean, the engineer can't say something about that?
I'm just clarifying the conversation of the wall, Betsy, if
I
that's
will
what
have
you
my-
want,
I will
then
have my engineer
that's
look at
what
it, and
we should-
I will get him to review it, and we'll add an engineering stamp to this plan, so.
Right, I think that goes under the whole
Yeah,
umbrella
I'll-
of that, they need to show that the slope, the additional fill on the slope over the wall is gonna be stable.
Okay, so it
Yeah.
includes looking at the wall, okay.
Anything else? Anyone else? Okay. If you're comfortable with dealing with the applicant and the engineer, then I think we could close the hearing. Someone make that a motion?
I'll move that.
In a second? Second? Someone?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstains. 500. And we'll just make that the drawing will be revised to show the easement and whatever.
And provide the
Other
commission with a
comments?
construction detail for the slope,
Right.
geotechnical specifications and supervision as per the,
Can I get a
Town
copy
engineer.
of the letter from the engineer?
Okay.
This is the wetlands, though. This is right. Move the 200-foot.
Did you vote on the order?
Someone make that a motion?
I'll move that.
We got a second.
Sorry, what was the,
The motion,
The motion.
to do what?
the order.
Oh, second.
With the, with
We
the
have a second.
conditions as,
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstains. 500.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See how this shows it's 200-foot bounds and jog
Right.
here? This line would have had a similar jog.
All the slope, is this the river, following the river, 200 feet off the riverbank? Or if
So-
they,
So we don't even see the river.
just right by.
This
this-
is wetlands.
what is this?
This says bordering
Which
wetlands.
then, what, oh, okay,
River's off. Maybe the river does do that, and we
I
just
guess
don't
so, right, it must be because it's 200 feet off of that, this would
see
be
it.
off
There's
100
100.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
in repair.
He's owned that whole property.
Yeah.
Built all of it. What do we got here?
You need the second file? Yes. You're all done with this, right?
Hmm?
Put it back together. You got your agenda, you got your report.
I got an agenda here someplace.
Okay. This is what we just
This is
closed.
my stuff.
I know, but this is what you just closed. So I'm gonna take that from you.
No, this is, oh, Pinnacle Drive, yeah, you can have that.
Yep, and I'm gonna give you the new one.
Good. Here it is. Okay.
So
I'll
storm
make a link here with a screen.
It was in really good shape, brand new, so I wanted to use it.
It's like, wait a minute, what is this? It's another color green.
It's a land disturbance screen.
Disturbance green.
Referring to Mr. Who? Mr. Who?
That would be too much.
Oh, that's you.
I know, but I'm like, what?
Land disturbance permit, public hearing. On a local stormwater management and erosion control bylaw notice is hereby given the intent Providence Highway Realty Ventures LLC to replace the existing building, the new one paving new display, storage areas, adding a septic system, and constructing a new stormwater management system located at 623 Route 1, Plans on file at Conservation Commission office. The public hearing of the matter will be held at Walpole Town Hall, 135 School Street, September 11th, 2019, beginning 7:15 PM. All interested persons requested to be present. Time is now 7:30. And there's some comments for the record here. I guess we don't have anything back from Treasurer's office, apparently. Planning Board, we're in receipt of your request for comments on the above referenced application. However, there are no planning comments at this time. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. The Board of Health, at its September 3 meeting, voted unanimously. They have no concerns at this time. This is Water and Sewer Commission. Reviewing the plans for the above subject, the Superintendent of Sewer and Water, the opinion that the applicant and/or his representative should schedule an appointment with the Board of Sewer and Water Commission to provide an overview and to discuss their utility plan. Applicant's engineer is scheduled to meet with this board on Monday, September 23rd. That being said, this commission would like to reserve the right to comment until they have met with the applicant. This is from the town engineer. Attached, please find the plan review we furnished to the Zoning Board of Appeals for the above noted project. Comment number 6. The attached review indicates the stormwater report was not available. Subsequently, the report was located and reviewed, provides for recharge of nearly all the site stormwater, which is a good thing. Furthermore, the stormwater design was discussed with the conservation agent and was noted that the longevity of the infiltration system would be increased if DMH number 1, CB number 1, and CB number 2 were water quality units, hydrodynamic separators. The commission should discuss this option with the applicant. We recommend the following. This WPP should be fully executed prior to construction and a notice of intent filed with EPA. The existing detention basin should remain as long as possible during the construction to capture the site stormwater. The design engineer should verify the elevation of the bottom of the infiltration system, soil conditions of the parent material, including excavating 2 feet below a few locations to verify clearance to groundwater, and the type and number of infiltrator panels actually installed. And as-built shall be furnished prior to use. The items required in comment 3 should be noted on the as-built. It is not known whether the proposed building will have a garage or vehicle washing facility. However, floor drains cannot be connected to either the septic system or the stormwater infiltration system. If there are floor drains, they will need to be connected to a tight tank, and the tank will need to be pumped by an appropriate waste hauler. Also, it should be discussed with the applicant if vehicle washing or rinsing will occur outside the building on the premises. Same concern exists with regard to discharge to the infiltration system. We are available if there are any questions. You have a copy of this?
I do.
Okay. So representing the applicant,
Dan Merrickin, Legacy Engineering.
do we have any paperwork that comes in with this? Any cards or anything?
I already
Or
have it.
butters? You
Okay.
got them, okay. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. We're here with a land disturbance application.
You
for
can move up here so we can see what you're,
Move this up.
yeah.
623 Route 1. It's a used car lot, was Dedham Auto, now it's Big Cars. It's just north of Big Y, just north of the Route 27 intersection. In the existing condition, there's an older building here, and then this area, all in gray, is paved for outside parking and car storage. 2-3 years ago, they went in and put a new drainage system in to accommodate a little bit of extra paving, built a stormwater infiltration basin, that's all out there today. What they are looking to do is to expand the outside parking and to take down the existing building and build a new building. So we have designed a new stormwater management system that will replace the existing. In the current condition, we have trench drains all across the front to pick up the runoff and route it to the property, presently into the open basin. What we will do is we will fill in that open basin and replace it with underground infiltration systems. It's been designed for the 100-year storm. No issues with any of the town engineer's comments. I have no problem taking the 2 catch basins, here, and this manhole, and converting them to proprietary treatment device. We could probably use that first defense unit, which is one that we use a lot. We have erosion controls around the perimeter of the work area. It's pretty straightforward. They wish they have no wetlands on site or anywhere near the site, or we'd be here with a notice of intent. It's just here because we're disturbing slightly over an acre of land, about an acre and a quarter of land, as part of the work process. That's about it.
Okay, did you address the engineer's comment regarding drains? Either for washing?
Well, they do not do auto maintenance on the site. So they're gonna have a display bay, basically, so that in the winter time, they could bring a car in and a potential customer can look at a car inside. I don't think that's gonna require a floor drain system, but if it did require that, we would install a tight tank. You can't obviously connect a floor drain to a septic system or a drainage system.
You're not proposing anything along those lines right now?
We don't think it's going to be required.
You're not washing the,
We
they
are
wouldn't
not
be
washing,
washing the
no,
cars.
we're not doing any maintenance or washing in the building. So we don't expect that the building department will require a floor drain in this little bay area here.
Okay. And no washing outside?
I don't believe they do. I have to check, I don't know if they do, I don't
Okay,
think they
so
do.
you're not planning on that at the moment?
I'm not, no.
Okay.
Find that hard to believe, car dealership not washing their cars?
Yeah.
Well, I'll find out what they do.
I mean,
I'll find out what they do. But any runoff that were to come, if they did outside washing, would all go through the new proprietary separators before it goes into the underground infiltration system. So it would get treatment, pre-treatment before it goes into the infiltration system.
Would that meet what the engineer said? What did he say?
He recommended that, and Landis recommends that.
Well, was that, I thought it was, if it's inside, he wants a tight tank.
Yeah, that's for
Right,
inside.
Outside
If-
would be, okay,
If the building department were to require a floor drain in this bay, we would have to put a tight tank.
okay.
It
But
would be
that's,
required
that's,
by the plumbing code.
that's only inside, okay,
Yeah, it's
all
just
right,
for the inside.
good enough.
Anything
Anything
my
that's
concern,
outside is handled by our outside stormwater management system.
and the concern was any salts and sands that would be used in the parking lot. But
Okay.
this is all gonna be car storage, they're gonna store cars,
Yeah.
they're all pretty much.
Okay. Landis? anything?
I think we pretty much covered my comments. I did talk to the town engineer, we sat down and talked for a while about the different possibilities, so I agree with his comments and what we're asking the applicant to do for the outside stormwater management. Other than that, I mean, the other things we'd look for is just a reduction of your pavement, but that's what you wanna do. You need to increase your parking
Yeah,
area
I mean,
for
it's
additional
an
cars. and-
underutilized commercial
Yeah.
property, so we're trying to use it in a manner that's consistent with the
Right.
zoning for that area. It's the Route 1 corridor, you know.
And your overflow on the infiltration system?
So all the existing stormwater runoff, for this whole part of the site just sheds by sheet flow in this
Mhm.
direction. So we have an overflow from the system here with a level spreader. It's 20 feet long. It only discharges in the 100-year storm. Everything up to the 100-year storm is infiltrated, and the discharge in a 100-year storm, we cut the rate and volume of runoff in half or more,
And
slightly more.
you do have test pits where you're proposing to locate the.
Yeah, we did test pits here when we did this basin a couple of years ago, and we've done new test pits over here. So we have test pits all over, and I have no issue. My standard practice when they go out and dig these things, I go out and I inspect the bottom,
Right.
and I make sure that everything is consistent with our design assumptions. So a condition to that effect is not a problem at all.
Yeah. Doug?
The transition on handling the stormwater during the construction, is that
tricky thing to, you get a big storm in the middle of a construction project.
Well, what we'll
You've taken
do,
out the existing.
we'll leave this basin as long as we can. So they can go in and build this
Oh.
system,
Okay,
which is picked up by these two catch basins. And then we can go in and basically only fill in half of this to put this system in. We can always leave some amount of that basin in play until the new system is basically complete.
so it's sequenced
And
to
ready
do
to
that.
be functional, yes.
Yeah,
So we would sequence it in that fashion.
Okay, good.
Emilio?
No, nothing beyond the car washing comment.
Roger?
Getting back to the car washing, if that's done outside, what about the soaps or chemicals? Is there any way to, any idea as to what they may be
I
or
don't
how they
know.
would be
I'll have to
handled?
ask the applicant what their practices are there.
Because I'm concerned about that getting into the groundwater.
Okay. Okay, we're not in a zone 2 here, just so you know. Not that it's different, but we're not in a zone 2. But I will have to ask the applicant about their car washing practices.
Anything else, Roger?
No.
Okay. Betsy?
No comment.
With respect to follow-up on Roger's question, is there regulations either from, as far as what can be used, because it does get into the groundwater system?
For car wash?
Yeah, I mean, for chemicals.
I don't think so. I mean, obviously, you can't use anything that's toxic.
Why don't we just condition no car washing?
So 1, 2.
Yeah, I mean, it's because it's a car lot, so I just can't imagine,
They're gonna wash their cars.
they're gonna wash their cars, so it's so much.
With
part of the
soap
business.
or they just use
Yeah.
spray
I
and?
suspect they would
Yeah,
use.
yeah,
It's part of the business.
Yeah.
Detail, wash, yeah.
They
I
want
would-
those cars to look,
and also, 5 years from now, they might be, okay, now we're gonna start really detailing them or something. So, no, I think it's good to be proactive.
Well, then I think with any car wash, they would have,
Well-
the drainage would have to go to a tight tank,
But it's
so.
not a car wash, it's just,
I know, you're
I
I
can
think-
find out what they do. I
Okay,
don't
yeah,
know what-
yeah.
splitting hairs.
We
but yeah,
can
it's-
ask them to provide us with what they do use for review for that. Okay. Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments, please identify yourself for the record. Anybody back there? Anybody? Okay. Someone make a motion to close the hearing?
I'll move that.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 500. All right. Just the comment that we want a response with what they use.
And if they say they wash their cars on site,
What process and what do they use?
and they
What is
tell
that?
us, and then what do we do with that information, though?
I don't know what, if there's any kind of regulation as far as what you can use for some car wash
So,
or
Dan,
that goes into the ground.
Yeah, their car washes all up and down.
say they do wash cars, right?
Yep.
I guess we're debating what the requirements are, like what, have you seen anything in the past, something similar to this? How would,
No, I don't know, they may have an outside contract for, detailing and maintenance. They don't do any maintenance on site, so they may have an off-site contract for all this stuff, where they send all the cars. The cars obviously get detailed before they come in to the lot. They wouldn't need to be detailed very much, when they're sitting on the lot on the interior. So they may just have, an agreement with a local car wash where
Right, if
they-
someone purchases the
where
car,
run a
they would
car
go off
down
and
get it
get
washed.
it detailed
Yeah,
and bring it back.
they might do
I'm
that.
not sure, so I'll have to find
Right.
out.
Yeah, and let us know.
Yeah.
Just advise what they do.
Because would that be in the order of conditions that,
Yeah, let us, advise us as part of the order that they, what they do for their car washing.
I guess hypothetically, what if they say, yeah, we wash our cars on?
yeah,
Right,
No,
that's
it's
what I'm
not-
saying, what do we
not
do with
just
that
one.
What
information?
do you
Are
do
we
then?
concerned
I
about
don't
that?
But
I mean-
what do they do? What do they use? not
Yeah.
just,
Just so we
that's
know
part of the
what they
order.
use?
Ask
Well,
them.
well,
They gotta tell
surely,
us.
Route 1 is full of car lots.
Yeah.
It's-
If you
it's-
guys had a concern about the information that I submit, we can certainly come back and have that conversation with you.
Yeah, just tell us what they
And
use.
revisit it if you want us to.
Right, I would think if all the vehicles that are on the lot are being washed several times or something, then they need to have a tight tank. It would be like a car wash, which is regulated. You can't just discharge it into
Yeah.
the
That'd be a different.
stormwater or so it would have to go somewhere. Yeah, it would have to be a tight tank. It couldn't just go into the ground.
I guess if Al was here, we could ask him about all the auto
Yeah, yeah,
miles.
like what goes on
What
in
does
Norwood.
he
Right.
do?
Surely someone
Well,
has
the
thought
big
of
places have
this.
their own car washes, like Lexus.
Okay, well, yeah,
They have a car wash in
Oh,
their
yeah.
building,
Is that right?
you know, so it's a whole different kind of thing.
yeah. So they probably would contract out to
Yeah.
whoever,
But it's
John
not our job
Shelby.
to say they probably contract out. It's our job to
No,
ask what they're doing.
I'll report to you
Let
what
us
they do,
know.
and if you have a concern, you can drag me back.
Yep.
Okay?
Thank you.
That's the thing is, so I'm writing the order, I got this information, okay, we
Just
know.
let us, so just
Then
tell us
what?
what they do.
Okay, but then what? Once we get this
Then we'll
information,
If
what
they
do you
really
want
are
us to do with
washing-
it in the office? That's what I'm asking.
If they really are washing cars like in a car wash style, maybe they do have to have a tight tank then.
So before we're issuing the land disturbance permit, we're finding out from the applicant what they do, and we are then potentially revisiting the conditions with the commission before it gets sent out? Or we just now know?
Or you could
If-
write a
Right.
condition that says, we'll submit the information, and the commission may, impose additional conditions if necessary.
Okay, well, that's what I'm
It's
trying to
what we
ask you, because
Yeah.
just asking is like, okay, but
Right, what do you-
what do we do next in the office?
That
How-
we have the
Once we know
then
that.
we have the option to revisit.
You can do that.
Thank you.
Okay,
Have a good night.
good night. Thank you.
You guys vote that? Did you guys vote that? Did you vote it? Did you vote the land
Or do
disturbance
we vote?
permit
Oh,
conditions?
Do we closed the hearing, so we make that a motion for the,
Well, wait a minute, are we,
was there anything else to add?
no, fine.
Okay.
I'll move that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All in favor?
Aye.
Five.
Aye, aye, aye.
Everybody, aye. 500.
Thanks for speaking for all of us.
Yes, aye, aye, aye.
All right, we're done with the green folder.
Like green folder, like land disturbance green.
The land disturbance. There you go, sir. Where we are next? Burns? Yeah, okay.
Notice of intent, public hearing, in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Wetlands Protection Act. Notice hereby given the intent of Wall Street Development for construction of a 36-unit condominium development, including 7 buildings, access drives, utilities, related site improvements located at Burns Ave, map 20, lots 119, 136, and 137. Plans are filed at the Conservation Commission Office. Public hearing, the above matter will be held at Walpole Town Hall, 135 School Street, April 10th, 2019, beginning at 7:15 PM. All interested persons request to be present. Hearing's been opened and continued. Representing the applicant. Let's see, this is a new letter from the town engineer. Well, let's see what else we got here. This is from the town engineer. Have you seen this? It's dated today, so probably not. Okay. Reference made to a 12-sheet set of plans entitled Site Development Plan A Comprehensive Permit MGLC 40B. Residence at Burns Avenue, Walpole, Mass., prepared by GLM Engineering Consultants, dated February 7th, 2019, revised September 4th. Following comments are made. We have reviewed the revised plan with the conservation agent and performed a quick plan review of the revised plans. We are not going to re-review design already approved by the peer reviewer, and we have not reviewed the stormwater report, nor do we feel it is necessary. Stormwater system is well designed. We note the following. At least one soil test pit should be performed in proposed infiltration system 1R and 2R. Proposed infiltration system 1R should have an overflow. The easiest route to accomplish this would be to daylight an overflow to the northeast of proposed building number 3. This was acceptable to the agent as well. Design engineer should verify the constructed elevation of the bottom of the infiltration system, soil conditions of the parent material, including excavating 2 feet below in a few locations to verify clearance to groundwater, and the type and number of infiltrator panels actually installed. And as-built shall be furnished prior to use. The items required above should be noted on the as-built. So, this is from the Board of Health. The above referenced Plan Board of Health will not be meeting prior to Conservation Commission meeting September 11th. Therefore, the Department would reiterate comments made by the Board of Health on May 21, 2018, which were also reiterated by the Health Department to the Conservation Commission on July 22nd. There's other material here, which I'm not going to spend all the time to read all of this in. Just to mention, there's a letter from Rackman, Sawyer, and Brewster, lawyer. This is to address to Mr. Petrosi, dated September 10th. This from Mr. Petrosi to the agent regarding testing that was done. GLM Engineers letter September 9th. Ecotech's letter of September 5th. Beta's letter of August 22nd. Lightship Engineering letter dated August 21st. There's more than one here from Light Shippers, all the same. Anyhow, it's a stack of information that is part of the record. So, I guess we'll begin with the applicant, and what do you want to fill us in on at this point?
Good evening, Lou Petrosi for Wall Street Development Corp. Since we last met with the commission, we've sat down and we have proposed a number of revisions to the plan that hopefully address some of the comments that the commission made at the last meeting relative to the degraded riverfront area as one area, and then I think the second area was to channel all of the runoff into the recharge chambers to avoid any water going out into the wetlands towards the Trap Hole Brook area. These changes essentially resulted in reduction in the number of the size of the buildings, which will ultimately have an impact on the number of units that are going to be built. We did try to listen to the comments of the commission to move buildings outside of the area that is undegraded. Is that right? The undegraded area on this side. So that we're hoping that the commission is favorably inclined to review these changes, I'll turn it over to Rob Truax from GLM. He can go over the specifics, items that were outlined in his letter of September 9th. That was to the commission with the revised plan, so.
Okay. When you're going over, you want to just tell us what sheet you were on,
Oh,
so we
August
can
8th.
follow that?
It's the last sheet, right?
I'm showing the supplemental sheet here right now. That's easy.
Sheet B?
So,
Sheet, or C?
The second one's in
Second for
C,
you, second for me.
there. We're gonna go to C after I go to C. That's it. Okay. So, the change was in the, project in the Village Road, on the left-hand side, the previous plan showed 3 buildings, which are currently showing 3, which is showing a 5, a 5, and a 5, so there's a total of 15 units. We took 2 of the buildings and made them 4-unit buildings, so essentially what we did was we lost 2 units on the end and pulled everything back to reduce the impact to the riverfront area on the left side. On the right-hand side, the building at the end, which is now shown a 4-unit building, was previously a 6-unit building. And that also, so you had 2 units taken off the far end, which pulled it back out of the riverfront area as well. And also what we did was we actually.
so
pulled
building 7?
the last building. So that building on the old plan was 6 units.
I see 4.
On the old plan, it was 6.
So
It's now revised to 4.
this one's dated
But I
February
mean, this
7th.
February
You got a
7th
revised
one,
date over here.
the February
Sorry.
7th.
That's 9/04.
Oh, okay, thank you.
The revised date's on the left right there. This is the last date, 9/4. That's the plan you're looking at. That's the revised plan we just submitted last week. So you're looking at the most latest plan right now. Can we pull up, I don't have a do you have a previous plan? You can show
What's
me?
your
I
question?
probably do, but it's too big.
What's your question?
Oh, no, I thought this was the February 7th plan, and I was comparing and contrasting.
This
Okay,
is the
this says
latest one.
February 7th, okay,
ahead.
fine.
Okay. You good? Okay. You're looking at the revised plan. So this was a 6-unit building, so it stuck out probably, I think these units are 16 feet, so it was 32 feet. As well as this side, these are 16 feet. We took off 2 of them, so we reduced that side by 32 feet, pulling everything back away from the riverfront area. I also took the cul-de-sac and pulled it back about 10 or 12 feet, pulling it back this way about, because these units, I didn't move much driveway over here, so I was able to squeeze it back a little bit, as much as I could to keep a 20-foot drive. So I pulled it back about 10 or 12 feet. In addition to doing all that, and I'm gonna let Paul discuss the impact of the riverfront area and how that's changed everything with this revision to the plan. I'm not gonna go into that. I'll let you do that, Paul. Okay. As far as the drainage goes, if you recall, in the previous plan, we had a 4-bay in the basin and the drain dumped in here. And there was a concern about that being close to the outlet structure. There's some other issues about recharge and things like that, and water cooling, et cetera. So what we've done is we rearranged that drainage system and went down into there, and we repiped it so it now goes into this recharge system. So all the drainage, all the impervious surface on this site goes into a recharge system prior to discharging to any other area, whether it be the detention basin or a resource area, or this one here doesn't discharge at all. It just overflows out of the gutters onto the surface, and it's over 200 feet away from a resource area. So the way the drainage works now is we come down to a treatment unit, which is a water quality unit. We move suspended solids before it goes in. Goes down and goes into this recharge unit. On the other end, it does the same thing. It picks up the drainage from Burns Ave, picks up the drainage from our road. The roofs are all piped in, goes through a treatment unit, and it all goes into this recharge system. And then the recharge system discharges to the detention basin. It will overflow into the detention basin because it can't handle the large storms. We've moved the outlet structure, which we did in the last plan, but we moved it from the middle of the basin all the way to the far end. So now you have the water coming in here, and it has to travel full length of the basin, and it discharges on the far end, which this is about a 60 to 70 foot path after it leaves the basin to get to the edge, to get to the BBW. So we've lengthened the flow path of the stormwater before it gets out of the drainage system. So those are the biggest changes to this plan. The other thing we've added to the plan set, and I don't know if we had added it before, I can't recall when this came into play, because I think we gave it to ZBA and not you folks. So we added this supplemental sheet C. And we brought back some of the restoration. Slightly different than the plant repair you saw years ago. So we've added some red maples. We put in about 14 red maples to provide an overstory along the edge of the wetland. And then we provided a whole host of herbaceous layer under that, which Paul had given us on the previous go-around. So we brought this, as you remember, this was not on the last set of plans, there was no restoration, it was just taking it out and making it grass. So now we're putting back and we're restoring the 25-foot buffer on this plan, as you can see.
Okay.
So those are the major changes and the reduction in the riverfront areas, and I'm gonna let Paul talk about the riverfront, just because he's more versed in it than I am. Any questions on what I went through before I?
Is there any overflow of the?
This one?
Yeah, and did you do any test?
There isn't, it's just these two roofs. Generally what we do with those is just downspouts go on the ground. So if the system were to back up, it just overflows on the ground around the buildings. And that's generally how we do roof runoff in some of the houses. I mean, it is a smaller system. We only put it in as an add-on. It doesn't need to even be there as far as peak flows go. All that water can just go on the ground behind those buildings and swale towards Union Street, and it doesn't increase the flow in that area because most of the flow is then redirected to the drainage system. We put that in as an add-on. And it's fine. It'll, recharge water into the ground. It'll work just fine. I don't have a problem with it. It's just that it's an added feature that didn't need to be there in the sense of, stormwater runoff as to peak flow rates and volumes leaving outside.
Is that overflow in a swale?
This is the swale going that way. The swale down behind the building. So if these were to overflow, they would float up. This would be all lawn. This just float on the lawn. And I can put like a catch basin grate at the end on the last chamber, some type of grate. So if it was to, it would just bubble up if it overflowed, like a bubbling pot. You've seen it.
We just want to make sure that.
I wouldn't put a pipe discharge towards the wetlands.
I'm just concerned that we don't wind up having water back here. I don't know what
That
your
all swales.
buildings are.
Yeah, so
This is
that all
swale.
swales all
It would
the way
all
down.
run this way.
So if those overflow, it's
Okay.
just gonna run right down.
Okay.
So if this was to overflow here, this is just gonna flow on the surface that
Okay.
way. It's
Good
all
enough.
pitching that way.
Okay. Did you want to comment any at this point, Landis, or hear what Mr. McManus
You
has
wanna
to say?
go through the numbers and the changes?
Thank you. Again, Paul McManus from Ecotech. One thing I just wanted to add to what Rob was just talking about the drainage and the flow and the concern about cold water fishery and Trap Hole Brook. Basically, he described everything in the flow getting to this point. From here, you can see on a straight line distance, we're just about 200 feet, just in the 200 feet from the brook. But as I described in my September 5th narrative, which you saw quite some time ago in the first iteration, the actual flow of the water through the swamp is almost twice that distance in terms of getting there. There's some additional area of the swamp that's added in. So it's about roughly 350 feet from this point. So everything that happens to get to here, and then it travels. So there's really quite a big separation from, the potentially hot water coming off the roof and the road before it would ever reach Trap Hole Brook. So that, just to expand that. So in terms of the whole riverfront issue, as Rob said, basically, we pulled back here, you know, basically the whole, this end of the site, and the riverfront, again, this is your outer riparian zone here. Everything has been pulled back. So Rob's got, he's got numbers on here. So we're doing two things. So we pulled that back, reduced that. We've had a lot of discussion about the degraded status under the regs, whether that applies or not. We've basically taken the position that okay, you know, that's one way to deal with riverfront under the regs. But the other thing we're doing is, so within this area, kind of putting aside the degraded definition, we know from being out there, we have our test pits and Beta's test pits and the test pits that Lou had done for other purposes. We know a lot of material was dumped out there. We know this area's been beat up. So basically what we're proposing is throughout this whole area down here, which is just shy of 5,000 square feet, throughout this area down here, we basically want to go and get all that material out of there. Because whether it's you know, whether it qualifies as degraded or not, it's a whole bunch of foreign material that was put in there. I think that's pretty well established. So we're proposing to pull that out. Landis, in their comments from yesterday, had asked a question about that. The other thing I just kind of note for the record is that within the developed part that we're proposing and calling out as developed, there's about 2,500 square feet of landscaping. That is separate from the roughly 5,000 square feet where we're proposing to do the cleanup and restoration. So that maybe wasn't entirely clear, but.
Yeah, it wasn't clear.
But
Because you said within that
yeah,
area.
so so this is the 25, and you can see Rob has a different, you know, he's got different hash mark on it. So this is, you know, the roughly 2,500 is part of what we're considering the developed area. But I just was making the point that it's pervious developed. It's going to have topsoil. It's going to have vegetation. It's not going to be all building. That's all I was saying with respect to that. The other thing that we're doing is there's a separate provision in the regs, which I go into in kind of chapter and verse, is that this area, as we know, we've talked in the past about the remainder of the riverfront. There's a lot of invasives in there, and there was an invasives protocol early on in the project. That's basically back on the table, and it's proposed to do that over an area of, it's about an acre, I forget the exact number, but essentially the rest of the riverfront on the site. And so basically what we're asking the commission to do is to recognize that this area, if not fully degraded, is certainly beat up and could be restored and brought back to a much more natural condition by removing all that material. Again, a question of Landis is you know, what's to be removed, and basically all the foreign materials. So any ash, any metal, any other debris that's in there. Most of it there seems to be the ash and metal, but any other foreign material that would be that's in there is going to be removed, brought down to native soil. You asked the question about the transition of that at the edge of this cleanup area, the transition to the area that we're leaving alone, the unaffected area. That's actually fairly simple, because if you recall from my test pits in particular, which are kind of in two transects here, the thickness of the material, you know, essentially grades down and peters out there. So by cleaning that material out, it's not like you're gonna be left with an abrupt cut, because I think, based on what I saw, the material was just dumped there. It's not like they dug a hole, put it in, and that removing it would then leave a hole. So basically, it would be a gradual transition.
But when we did test pits at grade, we went down like 21 inches at some point, so it wasn't
yeah,
like a
up-
big pile, it was.
Up further up high, yeah. Yeah, so further up high, I thought your question was at the edge, how would it transition?
My question was that you're proposing to go in there and take out all the foreign material, now you've clarified coal ash and everything, basically cut the trees, cut everything, scrape it away, and then put 6 inches of topsoil. So,
Right.
well, and my point is, you're taking away a whole lot of material, and you're only replacing it with 6 inches of topsoil.
Yeah, but we're taking material that was dumped there, so our intent really isn't to restore the existing grade that occurs today. Our attempt is to restore, at least generally.
I think we need more of a detailed plan that shows what your final grades are, what you're planning on. And what's gonna be below the 5 inches of, you're not restoring any of the A or the B horizon, you're just scraping everything away and putting 6 inches topsoil down.
Well, we're pulling back all the material that was dumped there, and then we're making sure there's a good topsoil layer on top, and blending it in, blending it
So I'd like to
into
see
the-
a plan with more detail, because I don't know what the final grades are once you pull everything out, and I don't know what you're planning on the final grade being from what you've provided to us.
Okay.
And then also the regulations for a restoration plan, it states that the mature trees and vegetation should remain, but you're not planning on doing that. You're basically planning on taking everything.
That's right. I mean, and we're actually working outside of that provision under the more general, mitigation provisions in the riverfront regs. But you are correct. I mean, in order to get all that material out of there, because as you said, further up in here, it can be a couple feet deep. So you can't get all that ash out of there without disturbing that vegetation. There's just no feasible way to do it. So yeah, I mean, I acknowledge that.
Well,
So,
excuse me, Paul. We have no objections to adding additional material where we're excavating the degraded portion of that material.
Bring it up.
yeah, and, I mean, we could go and restore these grades. My sense, and in talking to Rob and to Lou about this, was that, really we wanted to, this material was clearly dumped here. And my sense was, remove all the junk, all the ash and junk and whatever you wanna categorize it. And, get that out and then, restore a good, meaningful, growing medium on the top. I mean, we could bring in clean soil.
I guess just if the commission's gonna approve this plan, that there needs to be more detail, and if that restoration plan is part of the whole package, then I just, when I looked at it, there wasn't enough information as the final grades, what, if you only put the 6 inches of good topsoil, what does that mean? Is that
I would
a
think.
bag that we get at Lowe's or what, so
I
a little
would
more
think we'd bring-
detail
my
on the
thought would be
specs
bring
of
it
the
back.
restoration area.
I would think you'd bring it back to the original grades. So if you have to dig down 24 inches and take stuff out, then you bring in.
Because you're not even sure what you're gonna find, because we
Right.
didn't go out there and do
You
test
can't-
pits every single
What if you
place.
dig down 3 feet and take it out and you only put 6 inches, you're gonna have a hole. It's gonna fill with water, you're gonna have a hole up there. So I think you gotta bring it back to
We need
original
more
grade.
detail.
And just, whatever that material, you're not gonna put all, 36 inches of loam, you put clean sand or gravel in there and then top it off with 6 to 8 inches of loam, whatever it is. But bring it back to original grade. That's the way I would do it.
Okay, I mean, that's a,
And then do your plantings from there, because if you don't, like she said, you don't know, it's gonna do this. It's gonna undulate through there, because some areas you might have a pocket where it goes down 3 feet, you might go only down 6 inches.
Okay, go ahead. We hear what you're saying. Go ahead. What else?
all right, well, no,
Yeah.
that's fine. I mean, from my purpose, in terms of the riverfront, you know, it's the meaningful thing is to get a good growing medium on the top. And, you know, at reasonable grades, to get a good growing medium at the top and then to plant it.
Okay.
So, from my perspective, it's, you know, kind of 6 of one, half dozen of the other. But yeah, I mean, that can easily be, you know, basically, like, you know, what Rob's suggesting is we agree to just, you know, restore those grades, with the top minimum 6 inches of topsoil. And then, Landis made a comment about, you know, monitoring watering and replacement stock as needed. Watering's problematic, certainly monitoring and replacement stock of things that don't die, that's certainly reasonable.
Okay. Anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay. Okay. I think at this point, we'll go through the commission and for any questions or comments, we'll open it up to the audience for questions or comments. And we ask you to identify yourself for the record. So, Landis, any additional comments you want to make?
So just to clarify on the plan, supplement B, so the redevelopment of degraded area, which is the area that you're going to include road construction and buildings and landscaping, is 8,660. And then the alteration of the area not degraded is 4,910.
Correct.
And then you're restoring 4,954. So that 2,000 plus of landscape is in the 8,000 figure.
Yeah, I remember.
Or
That you-
within the area, not the green, it would be in and around the buildings, correct, like this here.
No, this is the area, I remember I asked.
Yeah, that's the area within the redevelopment of the green.
Say that again?
The 2,500 he mentions in his thing is within the.
8,660.
It's part of the 8,660.
Okay.
So that's the
Okay.
area that would belong pertinent to the unit of the development.
Okay.
So if you look at that land, it's the redevelopment and the alteration does not exceed the total degraded river.
Right, it's 13,570 or something. Yeah, I added them up. Just to make sure.
I think it's checking that.
Okay, so I would just, I'm trying to look at my report. Do you want me to go through the comments that I had in my report, Chairman, now, or you want to?
Well,
Maybe. Or the ones that you think are like currently
one
relevant.
question I have, with the information that's been submitted, do you feel you need more time to review everything? And also based on what we just heard this evening with regard to a plan with more detail on this, what area is that, the degraded area to be restored. How do you feel as far as the time you've had to review all this information? We've had a lot of information provided in the last
Couple of
weeks.
days? Well, actually, a couple of days. Well, you submitted your plans on Friday, and I got,
At noontime, yeah.
at noon time. And we got the Ecotel letter on September 5th, so it has not been very much
You took
time.
them home with you for the weekend to study up.
So,
Yeah, so it's been short. So the restoration area, I definitely, sorry, Amy, I would definitely like to see more information, because if the commission is gonna approve that plan, they need to know exactly what they're approving, and I don't think there's enough information on that, as we discussed tonight.
Yeah, so.
Do you wanna see a planting plan as well, like all the plants? that were
Well, I
there?
want to see what the final grades are for this
Well, I think
area.
Rob just said that, I mean, we would commit to just
That plan.
restoring the grades. to-
Right back, I would, my.
Well, that's what we need to know, and
That's what
then
we
what are you
need to
gonna
know.
put there? You're gonna put in 6 inches of topsoil,
And then what are we
and
gonna
then
plant?
what?
Right.
You know,
Did you do a plant?
Right, and then, I mean, and then my other comments are, again, the commission, which everyone we've been talking about for weeks, is the issue with the degraded area definition, and if the commission had an ability to re-review that or not. So that's a discussion that they need to have. I think that's still open. I know that we received a letter from Wall Street Developments, a legal letter stating that we didn't, that the decision for the Union Village was binding. It held the riverfront area and the degraded definition, and we shouldn't go back and revisit that. We've gotten consultation from town council saying otherwise, that we do, that degraded riverfront area is not a resource area. The riverfront area is the resource area. We're not challenging the riverfront area. We're revisiting the review of the degraded area because when we hired a private consultant, they came up with additional information that we didn't have the first time around. So the commission has to decide how they want to, just, where they want to go with that. And then if they want to approve the plan as shown here with the definition of the degraded area, there's still the question with, that the commission has a discretion on how much of the riverfront area can be altered. You're still proposing to alter a fair amount of non-degraded riverfront area, almost 5,000 square feet, which is the 10%. So you're getting the 10%, and then you're getting an additional 8,660 for the degraded area. So it's 13,000. That's 26% rather than 10%. That's a good deal. That's a lot. So how that affects the riverfront area. So I think the commission should have a discussion about that as well.
Can I comment on?
And with, if you're going back to the original order of conditions, that was a main point that we had. Take as much of the activity out of the area that's not degraded and put it in the area that's degraded. So I think that's pertinent to the discussion. So commission, that's what's in my report. That's what I recommending the commission review and discuss.
Okay.
And the decision tonight can be to continue it and get more information if you so want to provide more information regarding the restoration area, or to close it. And I would not recommend rendering a decision tonight because there's so much material to digest to actually write a decision.
Just comment first. I believe there has been a lot of material presented since our last hearing, and I don't think it would be advisable for the commission to close the hearing this evening. I think we need to review some of this. There's still some issues to be resolved. So with that, go through the commission. Doug, questions or comments?
Yeah, just curious, on the coal ash and other foreign material that gets removed, where does that go? Where do you dispose of that?
It's reused on site.
Stays on site, just relocate it?
Well, it's going to get reprocessed with some other construction debris that's on site, concrete. There's concrete, brick, and asphalt that will be processed through a crushing operation, and that material will be used as either backfilling around foundations or road base for
Anything else?
we're not expecting to remove any soils from the site under this.
But when you dig your foundations, you've removed a lot of soil to put in a basement.
But
Where does all that go?
We're gonna use everything on site. It's a complete fill for the we're gonna be bringing material into the site.
Okay.
The foundations will be fairly shallow. We'll actually be excavating material that is unsuitable for foundation footings and bringing in structural material to replace that material. And whatever's remaining will be used as backfill because it's not suitable for structural elements or like foundations.
Emilio?
Yeah, I would just agree with Landis that we need more information about what you're gonna do there. And when you said that you're gonna go down and get everything out, what do you mean by everything out? All the foreign matter, foreign matter that's there?
That's correct.
Okay.
So there's, a lot of it is ash.
Right.
If you remember from the sidewalk, a lot of it is ash, but there is some metal in there, and some other miscellaneous things, but yeah, basically anything that's not natural soil will come out of that whole riverfront restoration area.
You're gonna go down as far until you hit clean
And that's-
soil?
That's why you have to bring it back up. You can't just put 6
No, right.
If you hit
No.
4-foot hole.
Right, or more?
Right, or more.
Right.
You're gonna have a hole.
Sure, of course, yeah.
You gotta bring in clean sand and gravel and then top it off.
So you're just gonna go down until you hit clean and then fill it to original, pre-existing grades and, okay.
Patch it all out, bring the other stuff in.
Okay.
Clean it up, and then top it off with 6 to 8 inches of loom, whatever
Alright.
was in your report.
Okay, and, yeah, like I said, I agree with Landis, we need more information with plantings and what you're gonna do there, so that's all I would say right now.
Roger?
Well, I'm a little bit confused about that nothing is gonna be taken off-site, but I would think you would wanna take the metal.
Oh, yeah, other than, we just recently removed demolition from the existing garage that was there. We put that material was placed in dumpsters and it's removed from the site. So any metals, there's tires, there's demo material like from a shed or from there's wood that's been dumped on the site. That material will be placed in dumpsters and removed just like you would a regular construction materials. What we're talking about is soil-related, concrete-related, anything that's soil-related would remain on site, but anything that's metal, rubber, wood, tree stumps, that kind of stuff, that stuff gets removed off-site.
Okay, because I think that was important. Well,
Anything else, Roger?
I would think that, bringing that up to grade, because you're gonna have people out there walking around and you don't want someone to be lost in a hole.
I agree.
So that's important. No, I think we certainly, there are some things that I think are much better.
Okay. Betsy?
Yeah, I think I'm still back at a previous step, especially since we just got today, the commission just got the letter of September 10th from Lou's lawyer, and then we have a letter dated today, September 11th, from the town council. So I got all kind of intertwined with that. I mean, I think it's really interesting and great that you're pulling back and making the project smaller. That's very good, but to suddenly have these two lawyer letters, within 24 hours of each other, I feel like I can't ignore that. So I studied it all over and wrote all over it with orange and red, and I think I arrived almost independently, but not quite, at the same conclusion that degraded riverfront is not a resource area. So we are allowed to look into it and talk about it and consider it. And then a great deal of trouble and effort was made to get an outside consultant. And I just don't think that we're entirely in position, if we're trying to do this right, to say, oh, well, it doesn't really matter what the outside consultant says, doesn't really matter what the town council says. I actually think we do have to consider that. So if we were to go with the outside consultant's opinions on degraded riverfront, which I feel convinced we can do, how might that change the project?
Won't.
Won't change it one iota? Oh, okay.
Mr. Chairman, would you like me to answer that now, or?
If you
I
can
think-
briefly, go ahead.
Yeah, if you look at my September 5th letter, on page 3, I talk about provision of the riverfront regulations, the 1058.5G. And basically, that allows the commission discretion for, I think really for situations that are kind of like this. And what it does is we've talked about the degraded and the riverfront, degraded riverfront and kind of chapter and verse of that. But there's a whole separate provision under 5G, which I talk about there, which talks about general mitigation, and it even says, talks about a 2-to-1 ratio, and it also allows, for situations where area isn't a pertinent measure, where actual area measurements aren't a pertinent measure. So I'm asking the commission to look at this under that provision, which I think gives you a lot of discretion, and to look at it kind of holistically, and it doesn't require that we dissect the degraded issue anymore. That's why I talked initially about, whether it's degraded or whether it's degraded in quotes or not, it's clearly been beat up, and it's clearly has diminished function. If you think about it, you certainly wouldn't let somebody come in and say they were gonna do what was done here in a riverfront, and accept an argument that was not a negative impact on the riverfront, what was done historically here. So I think, from my perspective, this area has been beat up historically. We're proposing to develop a portion of that beat up area. We're proposing to restore a portion of that beat up area. And you'll notice I'm just using that general term. And we're also over a much more extensive area proposing to do invasives management. And so also in my report, if you look through, I talk about all the interests of the act and the bylaw, and I go through those, and you can go through in as much detail as you want about those. But I think you can look at this with a straight face and conclude that that if this were to be done, including all the mitigating measures that I described, that if that were to be done, it is in fact protective of those interests. And that's really, what we're all about here, is protecting those statutory interests of the bylaw, of the act, and then, your bylaw adds a few more on top of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's,
Okay.
you have a comment, Betsy?
Oh, well, I'm
anymore?
just gonna say then, how do I say this? It just feels so convoluted sometimes. Then why did Lou's lawyer come up with this letter yesterday that was sort of fighting words again? I don't know, what you said.
Can I just clarify that the degraded area allows you to alter 8,000 more square footage of riverfront area than if it wasn't degraded? You would only be able to alter 5,000 square feet?
Not necessarily. Not with this other, not under 5G.
Okay, that gives us more things to think about. I think there has been a lot of information presented in the last few days that needs to be digested. I think there's definitely, let's call it an improvement from your prior plan, from some things you have addressed. I don't know if that you have addressed everything, but you have addressed some of the issues that we have brought up. So at this point, I'd like to open it up to the audience. If you have any questions or comments, please identify yourself for the record. Okay. When's our next meeting?
Well, Chairman, as you can see, that the additional information keeps on coming with these plans and this Ecotech letter, which is now, sounds like what he's saying is now under 10.585G, is that right? That it doesn't matter if it's degraded or not. And our consultant, who has helped a lot with this project, we do not have additional funds to send them this letter or this plan to review this very complicated project.
Okay, that was.
Which keeps on changing.
thought
And I have a
that
question.
that we would continue this, and everyone will have an opportunity to look at this and come up with questions after reviewing it prior to our next meeting. We all need to take a good look at this stuff, and then what questions do we have?
All right, so one question is why, if this 10.585G is really the way to go, why wasn't that the first thing? That's why I get confused about the arguments going back and forth, and then the lawyer jumping in again with the degraded yesterday.
Let me just explain a couple of things, just so you understand where we're coming from. We recognize that the commission has a job to do, and they have the discretion, in granting or not granting an order of conditions for this project. On the other side of the coin is that we have other rights, appeal rights, for a superseding order of conditions, and when that process takes place, the entire record gets reviewed, and all of the material that is relevant gets reviewed at DEP and maybe in an adjudicatory process. So in our mind, as I've said from the original get-go, is we feel that the original order of conditions that was issued for the previous project on this site is frozen for a 3-year period. Town council seems to have a disagreement. My legal counsel disagrees with them. We could go on and on with, just like we're going back and forth with definitions of degraded and restoring items. Quite honestly, I'm not interested in continuing to have a dialogue on areas where people simply aren't going to agree. So if the commission is of the mind that they need more information to debate who's right and who's wrong, then I'm not interested in continuing the process here. I'm just willing to just move it up to the next level and let somebody who's objective look at it rather than, a localized commission who, and I'm certainly not interested in paying thousands more dollars to a firm to review it that clearly doesn't agree with our position. So, from my understanding is that the commission were to close the hearing tonight, the commission has 21 days to make its decision and issue an order. I think that gives you plenty of opportunity between now and the next meeting to discuss possible conditions or request as conditions additional information in the order. And, we've been at this for 3 years.
Are you requesting that we close the hearing?
I am requesting we close the hearing. Yeah.
I just want you to be aware that the commission would, based on what we have said tonight, that we feel there is additional information that should be provided to us, and without that information, we don't really have any choice but to deny the project.
Well, unless
To
you,
give us time to review and come up with even the planting plan and the grading issue.
but that could be easily conditioned, so What
Not
specific-
without
what-
knowing what there is. Plus, there are other issues that, my suggestion to you would be to let us continue it to our next hearing and then see where we wind up.
Well,
I expect that there may not be complete agreement on all issues, but I think, we would be able to come up with a reasonable points for discussion, as opposed to, at this point, I feel that we are lacking information, and my suggestion would be that we would have no choice but to deny it.
that
So
would be
that-
fine, that would be the commission's decision, but if the commission is going to not tell us what the additional information that they're looking for tonight, what would be the purpose of waiting till 2 weeks down the line to find out?
You just gave us, we got a 11-page letter from Mr. McManus dated September 5th?
Yes.
September 5th. Today is, I believe,
11.
the 11th, and that includes, take out the weekend. Got here on the 5th, so I actually didn't get here till the 8th, because it didn't get here till whatever, then town hall closes at noontime on Friday. So that takes that out of it, so it actually didn't get here till the 8th. 11 pages of that, plus the information from your lawyer, from our lawyer, and there was some other stuff in here that I referenced, that I think it is very unreasonable for you to expect us to review all of that and make a decision based on 2 days, which includes other things that other people have to do besides work on this project. So I think it's up to you. If you're asking us to close the hearing, my recommendation is denial. So, what do you want to do?
So what would happen at the next meeting if we were to continue?
We'll know at the next meeting. There are issues that come up. I just had a chance to glance through this 11 pages of letter, and it brings up a lot of just questions. How pertinent is it? And as Mr. McManus just referenced, a section in the act that he's saying we should follow. Now, why should we follow that? Because he says so? We need to make up in our minds why we should agree with what he's suggesting. And that's not going to happen in 20 minutes or 10 minutes of discussion here. So,
So may I ask, is there any additional other information besides the reviewing?
I can't answer that at this point without really going over all the information again that we've had, that was presented in a and even the plans. You had 2 days to look those over. And again, this is not the only project. We don't wait for your information to come in and then drop everything.
I understand.
So, I think you're being unreasonable if you are asking us to close the hearing tonight.
So when would be your next meeting?
Our next meeting is the 25th.
Can we be first?
No, we have a 7 o'clock, we have a 7:15 and 7:30, so I would say, looks, so in here, at
The people
7:45.
waiting for their hearing would also say no.
7:45.
We'll go one more meeting. Go ahead.
Before we do that, if I may, Ms. Dyer asked a question that I don't think was answered. Couple things. There is a planting specification in my narrative for the restoration area.
Yes.
But your other question was, more broadly, why are we talking about 1058 5G now? And not before. And the reason for that is the degraded regs are relatively straightforward, and it's a numerical thing. It's kind of like, when you're doing, BBW fill and replication, you talk about the square footage, and you have that, and it's a numerical thing. It's easy to get your arms around. This site really doesn't lend itself to that. There's disagreement about the degraded. It's clearly been beat up. So the 5G asks the commission the issuing authority in general, to go and step back and look at it more broadly. So it's there, I think it's perfectly reasonable, I think it's appropriate to think about the interests of the act and the bylaw as I've laid out. But it's not as easy, it's not as cut and dry. And that's why, because, you know, we dealt, a couple of years ago, we dealt with the degraded issue. At that time, it had been settled for those purposes. And we felt that it was still settled, obviously there's disagreement there. So therefore, it's just more simple and straightforward to deal with those, you know, one square foot for 1 square foot kinds of things.
But it's 5 to 10.585 is still redevelopment within previously developed riverfront area restoration and mitigation. It's still under that heading, right? So
Okay. All right, we need to review
Okay.
his
Audience
comments
has a
versus
question.
this and that.
Yep.
The audience has a question.
You have a question. Identify yourself, please.
Yes, Susan Sparrow, 189 Union Street. I didn't have a question earlier, because it was closing, it hasn't been relevant to anything tonight. Has applicant provided a restoration plan for the, section next to Pickerel Brook where the utilities are going in? My recollection was the last meeting that one had not been provided as of yet.
No,
I am not sure.
just the seed, loam and seed.
We're not allowed to plant anything on top of the utilities, so
I don't think that's true. That's not true. That's false information. You can plant on top of the utilities.
we can't plant anything that's gonna generate large root systems.
There's lots of things that don't generate large root systems.
So you'll give us information on that as well? Anything else? Okay, thank you. Okay, someone make a motion to continue the hearing till 7:45 at September 25th.
I'll move that.
In a second. And any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. 5-0. Thank you. See you then. Okay.
Jack, I will not be at the next meeting.
We have to vote now in favor.
You will not be at the next meeting.
I will be in Italy.
So Doug Buczewski wait a minute.
FaceTime me and
Doug cannot vote on this because the first we're still in session, guys. Doug Buczewski cannot vote on this because he was not on the board during the first hearing.
Uh-oh.
Al, hopefully he's feeling better by the 25th, can only miss one meeting of which he has to review. So if Emilio is not going to be here on the 25th, and Al is not going to be back, we will not have a quorum to take an action at next meeting. Emilio will have to review the 25th in order to go the next meeting. So that's just some information. Hopefully Al will be back and feeling better on the 25th.
Yeah.
So,
We hope Roger will feel better too.
but there's nothing you can do about it.
you give me one.
Yeah,
Skype,
well,
Skype
because
meeting.
they don't have,
Mullen rule?
yeah, the
We do.
problem is they don't have it available.
Well, the Mullen rule, if Emilio's not going to be here on the 25th, he can Mullen the 25th and be available for the next meeting. Al can Mullen tonight and be available on the 25th, unless he's still not feeling well. Then he'll miss another meeting. So
And you can't
it's
do
a
it
bit of a
twice?
juggle.
No,
No, you can only miss one
Just
meeting.
one.
So we will, hopefully everything will fall into place and
Sorry.
we will have a
We meet
quorum.
tonight's
We're on
meeting.
to the 25th.
We're on for the 25th.
We
But
looked
just-
in the other index. Is that right? Coming back and
That doesn't
all
matter.
sorts of traffic.
You're welcome.
Pretty nervous about making this.
You'll miss me.
Sorry.
Hiking up there.
Sorry.
Okay,
Camping and kayaking. It's fun. Fantastic. Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. Nice.
Where are we next? Oh, okay, the next one is the bylaw regulations, which I'm not prepared for.
Okay.
So,
Do we have,
I'll just
we don't have
continue
anything to read in for the bylaw, do we?
No.
Okay, someone want to make a motion to continue the bylaw hearing?
I'll move that.
So, let's make that, September 25th at 8 o'clock.
Betsy, you made that motion?
I did, yes.
And you seconded it?
Yep.
All in favor? Aye, positively, 500. Okay. Okay. Where are we? Got,
What is this?
Oh, 1900,
okay.
sorry.
1900 Main Street.
Right, no, 1900 Main Street. Oh, wait, that's, no, read that.
Is
I don't
anybody
see
here
this
for
on, though.
1900 Main Street? When do we do the next one? We'll read this in after. Doesn't matter, right?
No, it doesn't.
I don't have anything for Sawmill, but,
Yeah,
oh, we do?
Right in.
this one.
Uh,
Okay, Town of Walpole Notice of Intent Conservation Commission, public hearing. First Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Wetlands Protection Act. Town of Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Notice here again the intent of Daniel and Alicia Dinan to construct a pool within existing lawn area, including stairs, house, patio, and landscaping at 42 Sawmill Road, Walpole. Plans are filed at the Conservation Commission Office. Public hearing, the above matter will be held at Walpole Town Hall, 135 School Street, September 11, 2019, beginning at 8:10 p.m. All interested person requested to be present. Time is 9. Okay, from the planning board, receipt of your requests for comments for the reference application. There are no planning comments this time. Thank you for the opportunity to comment. This is from the Board of Health, on a meeting. Voting unanimously, the board is not in favor of swimming pool being located within the wetlands area poses potential issues with mosquito-borne viruses in the future. However, recognize the construction will go forward. The Board of Health requires that all the appropriate measures be taken to prevent pool runoff entering into the wetlands by installing drains around the pool to capture runoff, storing all pool chemicals away from 100-foot buffer zone, and only dechlorinated pool water discharged from pool when drained.
You can just set it up in the middle there so that the commission can see your.
Zoning Board of Appeals, proposed project is not for the Board of Appeals, therefore I have no comment. The Town engineer, do you see Board of Health, so with respect to the water stuff, you look at that, your order. The Engineering Department received a cover letter from Ecotech dated 8/13/19 on the notice of intent application, a 4-sheet plan titled Proposed Conservation Commission Permitting Plan, 42 Sawmill Road, August 12, 2019. Written by Quinn Engineering. Note the following. Site plans are thorough and detailed and show construction detail as well as the road control appropriate for this type of project. We reviewed the property for cross-country drainage, sewer, and water, and have found none or any easements this construction would interfere with. Those grading does not adversely impact abutting properties. Remain available should there be any questions.
Ready to go?
So, you have the,
That's exactly what we have. Sorry? This is what we have already.
No, it's new.
Same date?
look at the revisions there.
Okay, so representing the applicant,
Oh, yeah,
Arthur Allen from Ecotech Incorporated, wetland scientist for this project. And with me here tonight is Dan Diamond, the applicant, and Carl Holgren, PE from Quinn Engineering. Essentially, the project at 42 Sawmill Road at the existing single-family house, proposing backyard work in the existing lawn area, consisting of removal of an existing playset. This is actually the existing conditions and demolition plan. Demolition primarily consisting of removal of the existing swing set and play area in the back corner. And then in the lawn area, proposed installation of an in-ground pool, paver patio in 2 sections, and then a landscaped perimeter around the pool here. Covered pool area up against the house, and some work right on the house itself for stairways and access. Again, all the proposed work is within the existing lawn limits, all of which is within the buffer. The wetland is wraps around this side of the house here, down to an intermittent stream that flows into the wetland on this side of the house. There's existing wetland bounds outside of the existing fence at the lawn limit right now that I believe were part of the original construction of the subdivision in the house on the property. We're keeping everything inboard of those, and actually inboard, further inboard inside the existing fence and lawn area. And we also have an erosion control plan that shows the straw bale and silt fence limits wrapping completely around the proposed work area, between the work area and the wetlands, a proposed stockpile area, crushed stone construction entrance, and there's also stabilization and construction notes on the plan and details on the 4th sheet of construction entrance and the drain work and the house door and the siltation control barriers. So that's the proposal in a nutshell. Myself and the engineer and applicant would be glad to entertain any questions from the board.
okay, Landis?
Cool.
I don't have any specific concerns. I did go out there and take a look at the site and saw the no alteration bounds. So this is within the Wisteria 2 open space subdivision where the lots are smaller than normal sized lots. And the commission, when the houses were approved, allowed for some of the yard work a little bit closer to the wetlands than 25 feet, and bounds were placed along those boundaries. So this bound here, I think it's a little bit closer than 25 feet, but it's clearly marked and has not been encroached on within the existing development. So it all looked good. The only comment usually was with pools. What type of pool is it, and what is the how is it going to be maintained? It needs to be drawn down or filtered, or.
So we had a brief discussion about this outside, and I can let Dan jump in any point if he wants, but it's my understanding that it's a saltwater pool, so it's low chlorine. So any backwash or flushing will be done into the lawn and has minimal chlorine content, and also it needs to stay full year round, so it won't be draining in the winter, and the water will remain in the pool once it's filled.
Right, so the commission just usually puts a condition in that, sometimes there's maintenance that has to do with pools. We understand that, year to year, day to day, it doesn't get drained down, but if there's maintenance or, house is gonna be sold and they wanna empty the pool, or, there's things that come along over the years that things need to be emptied, that they just follow the protocol not to discharge directly to the wetlands.
Sure. If I could just mention briefly too, I handed out revised plans and didn't mention what the changes were, but basically they're all just up near the house, the changes on this revised plan from what we filed initially. I did send it into Landis earlier this week, but essentially just new access walkway and door proposed on the east side. Over here, they added a new door, and then they removed the door and proposed stair that used to be on the south side of the garage, and a small paver area proposed on the southeasterly side of the pool for pool equipment. So that's just this area right there. That's all. Again, within the limits of the original plan.
Shed.
The tweaks that were made for the last.
It's an area, I don't know. It's an
Pool-
area.
Okay.
Pool equipment, probably a little shed.
Doug?
I guess to work on what Landis was asking about, it's great that it's a saltwater pool, but down the road, what's the mechanism for a subsequent owner to keep them from not switching to chlorinated water?
I mean, I guess all the equipment, I assume, is specific to that saltwater system. I mean, so they would have to stop.
That dictates that it's saltwater. Once it's installed, they can't just switch back and forth.
Not easily. I mean, they would have to rehab the whole, all of the equipment associated with those.
Just clarify, there's still, chlorine is still a disinfectant with
Yeah.
a saltwater pool.
But not, it's reduced amount of chlorine, as I understand it.
That's my.
That depends on how you keep it, but you're still using chlorine as a disinfectant. And is that your understanding of how that works?
Yeah, but to a lesser extent than a traditional chlorine-based.
If you need chlorine, you need chlorine, so, just so you're aware that there still is chlorine used as a disinfectant.
I know that
Through
people
the-
that have saltwater pools like it because their eyes don't get all bloodshot from, I guess it's because it's a lower level of chlorine.
Anyhow, but that is still, which can affect vegetation, so that's why we have to dechlorinate if it is to be discharged, so, go ahead.
Yeah. No, that's it, that was my main concern.
Medio?
Is there or will there be a fence, or where will that be?
The fence is going to remain.
Around the entire backyard.
Yeah.
We currently have a fence around the entire backyard that is pool code.
Okay.
We're also gonna put a secondary fence closely around the pool that's more of another protective code.
Secondary,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Roger?
Well, my questions, I think, been answered in a way. What happens with a heavy rainstorm? What is the level, what's the level going to be if you've got, really 4-6 inch rainstorms, and Lord knows what the global warming is going to do to it, as far as the amount of rain that the pool can handle, before we start putting the contents mixture onto the ground.
Right. I think the freeboard on those pools is usually about 6 inches.
Not sure.
I mean, I know it can handle a pretty good storm typically. And if it does overflow, obviously the rain will dilute it slightly, but I can't imagine, we don't get many 6-inch rainstorms, so.
Don't count on it. I mean, a lot of things we didn't think we were gonna get, but they seem to be happening more and more frequently.
Yeah,
And-
it's still, the wetland is, is back in here. From the edge of the pool, I think at the closest point, we're probably 30 feet at the closest point. Most of it's further away than that.
Well, you have the intermittent stream, which may be running all the time.
Yeah.
I have to have to mention these things
Oh, no, I
because
understand,
we have to be looking at these things more carefully.
understood.
And we don't want to affect the wildlife or affect the, what's going on downstream or in that particular area.
Understood.
So, you don't have any drainage area or around to catch it and put it into a, some type of recharging or dewatering or de something rather, whatever it is.
It's pervious, it's all pervious around the pool, so the down gradient side of the pool, it will all just be a landscaped area, so that'll all be infiltration area.
Well, yeah, but that can be just as bad because we don't want to get down to the, the water. We are a sole source aquifer there in the town and, maybe we're stretching the point a little bit, but, we don't know what's gonna happen next year or 5 years from now, or 10 years. And I hope I'm here to find out.
Well, there'll be a lot less grass on the site after this is done. It'll be a combination of the, of the pavers that, that will be, they'll have openings and some porosity, and then the landscape beds, which are, all kind of lower intensity in terms of chemicals and things than the lawn typically, so.
Well, that's another thing too. I mean, you have to think about the fertilizer and what that fertilizer consists of as it goes down into the stream.
Yeah,
There's probably an
Yeah.
order of conditions about the fertilizer though from previous.
would expect so.
Yeah.
There is.
from the-
Yeah,
Okay,
right,
anything
no-
else, Roger?
No,
okay,
Okay.
no
Betsy?
comment from me.
Okay, anyone in the audience, any questions or comments? Okay, someone make a motion to close the hearing? You got a second?
Second.
Further discussion, all in favor? Aye, close the thing, 500. And the standard order conditions for pool with, for instance, considering the Board of Health's comments?
Absolutely.
You got those, good.
Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Good luck.
Oh, we might be waiting for that.
Minor modification.
Well, they're waiting for the minor modifications. We might be. So, okay. So we have two people still waiting in the audience for the minor modification
Okay.
on Emerald.
Okay.
And then I think we have someone waiting for the, You're here for Lois, right? What are you here for? Yeah. Yeah, for Lois. I don't know, the chair will tell you in a minute.
What do we got?
So we have people waiting in the audience for the minor modification on Emerald Way, which should go really quickly, and then the certificate of compliance for Lois Drive as well. So
Okay, what's the minor modification?
the minor modification, want to come up and explain your minor modification? It's just to take out some trees.
Emerald. Hi.
So what we are looking to do, my name is John Felice, I'm one of the property owners. We're looking to remove 13 trees in the buffer zone between our property and the wetlands that we abut. We believe that they are a safety hazard. Last winter, one of the trees fell, just missed our neighbor's house, and it cost us a couple $1,000 to have it removed from his yard. Our landscaper over the last 2 years, we've been in the house for 2 years, our landscaper over the last 2 years has removed numerous large branches that have fallen. We have submitted a letter from him to that effect. And I have a few pictures so that you can see, these are the trees, this is the area you can see our front yard ends right here, our backyard ends right here, so it's just this area right here where we're looking to remove the trees.
So here's the original plan for your property. It's in the 25-foot no alteration area is where the
Correct. Yep.
trees are?
Correct. So there's this natural stone wall that separates our yard from the wetlands. And so removing the trees isn't going to impact the groundwater, and we've submitted a letter for our landscaper who opines that it's not gonna affect the canopy for the wetlands either, because these are all, these trees are all shorter and smaller than the trees on the other side of this natural stone wall that provide the canopy for the wetlands. And as you can see how close there are, both of our children's rooms are right here. The trees are very close there, so that's why we believe it's a safety hazard. We've also developed a problem in our attic with carpenter ants, and they're coming from the trees. One of the trees, our landscaper has cleaned up sawdust around the base of the tree numerous times because it's infected with carpenter ants. So both of these pictures, sorry guys, give an overview. I can pass these around to the extent you want to see them.
Sure.
Those are the trees that we are seeking to remove. I may have more pictures as well.
You got any comments? Should they replace with some
Were
shrubbery?
you proposing to replant anything in
So,
place?
we're certainly open to it, yes. I think you can see in one of the pictures I have here. So we planted a total of 21 trees along the perimeter of the property already. And we're certainly willing to do more. So again, this is the area where we'll be removing the trees. The road is right here, and there's the large bridge that crosses
Yep.
over into Ross Common. So we'd like to put some sort of a landscaping, area in at the corner of our yard anyway, which spills into that conservation area, or the buffer zone, I should say. But yes, I mean, we're certainly willing to plant
I
more.
think some low-growing shrubbery or something like that would be, then you don't have to, you don't want to plant more trees.
Yep, and we did plant, I think what you're probably thinking of is we planted high bush blueberry
Yeah.
Along
Yeah.
there when we first cleared the lot.
Right.
So we're certainly open to doing more of that. We just want to get rid of those large trees that we think are a safety hazard and make more usable space in our yard.
Anything else, Landis?
Well, I'll obviously let the commissioners talk as well, but the purpose of the no alteration area is to provide vegetative buffer between the activity, home or whatever, and the wetlands. I don't think, doing some other kind of plantings is fine, as long as it doesn't become, one thing that happens, I don't know, speaking very well, but one of the things that happens with if you start landscaping the 25-foot no alteration areas, becomes part of the yard landscaping, and what often happens with cuttings and clippings and stuff is it ends up going into the wetlands. And that's one reason why we have this no alteration area, is sort of like, well, you can't really, you can't go beyond here.
Yep.
So, it becoming more of a landscape part of your yard, I would just be a little concerned with the further encroachment. And it may not be you, it may be, in 10, 20 years when you sell the house or move on, so.
This is the stone wall. It's a natural stone wall that apparently has been there for hundreds of years, but this is the yard immediately behind ours that we abut. It is cleared right over to this stone wall
Yeah.
depicted there. So, all of the other abutting properties are already cleared right over to that. But I understand that concern. I actually hadn't thought of that. Obviously, we don't intend to do anything beyond this natural stone wall, which provides natural
they're
protection
not
for
here.
wetlands. But
Do not
Right, but
disturb
these are
class.
for
here.
grass clippings and things like that,
Right.
don't go over there.
He's not here.
This is a 25-foot
Well, the
no
stone wall is to
disturb.
the rear of your
The sto-
house.
Yes, we're
No,
talking,
it's to the right of our house.
oh.
The do not disturb
and the-
area.
Wait a minute, here's the road.
Yeah.
So here's the stone wall on the back.
I'm not sure what you're talking about, that something is already cleared right up to the wetlands?
This property
behind us
Yeah.
is cleared
On Walden
to
Drive.
this, to basically here.
But you're cutting trees right here.
No, here.
Here, in
Oh,
the disturbed.
here. So, okay, so you have no alteration plaques all
Yeah.
along there, right?
They want to they want to cut down some of the trees in
Okay,
the
okay,
no
Yeah,
alteration.
so now I see where you are, sorry.
Well, if they cut those down, the plaques are still there, so that and put in some shrubbery, whatever, some low growth would, to me, would not be unreasonable. If they're
Agreed.
concerned with the safety issue because of the trees.
Yeah.
And the only way to get rid of the carpenter ants is to probably spray, and we'd rather not have them do that, so.
So
I
this is,
think-
okay, yeah, sorry, go ahead, yeah.
I think it's reasonable, but replace with some low-growing shrubbery, with the plaque still there, and adhere to, the plaques would not dumping your brush or whatever, grass clippings and that kind of stuff in there.
Yeah, we
Is
do
that-
use a professional landscaper. He actually submitted a letter on our behalf, and they, mow the lawn every week and cart away all the things
Okay.
that there's.
Okay, anybody else? Doug, anything?
I understand the need to occasionally take trees for safety reasons, so I don't have any questions.
Medio?
Do we want to know the number of plantings, or are we, did they plan on?
Something that's reasonable. How many trees you taking down?
13.
So, I don't know, 13, how big is this? What's the dimension here?
They're 13 very
They're close together.
thin.
There's a scale on here. See a scale over there? 1
1
inch.
inch equals 20 feet.
So, we got probably 100 feet or so, so what? 8? Would be every 12 feet? That sound reasonable?
Of shrubs?
Shrubs?
Sure. Or
8 to 10, whatever looks good in there from what we don't want one. you know, so, but Make it so it's, okay. Okay, Roger, anything?
Well, I like the idea of shrubs down by the water, also some high grasses to work out of that. But don't make the path straight. Make the path zigzag, so water comes down, it will have a nice, easy path. Just better for your exercise.
Anything, Betsy?
Yeah, I was gonna say something sort of in general. I mean, I'm in favor of this, so that's not the problem. I just wish this was the sort of thing that we had in our jurisdiction to catch before it happens. Like, we worked on this for years. We were very familiar with all this, and it's just, I don't know if we can even catch this kind of thing. I remember making comments like, but these people, not necessarily you, but these people have no backyard. And someone going, they don't want a backyard, don't worry about it, Betsy.
we run across this constantly.
But I wish we had the right to say that this is not good enough for somebody's yard. You know, it's like, but we don't, that's not in our
That's not
jurisdiction.
Well, it would
So then
be-
people come back before us
Right.
to
They come back
get it
before us
straightened out.
when there's pine trees right behind their house and, but it's,
I
I don't know what to say, other than, we could tell people they can't build, because we do look at these things before the house goes in, and
Well, I didn't
we
like this-
definitely see things that are gonna be a problem.
Yeah.
And then you guys come and say, the trees are too close, it's like, we know, but that's where the developer wanted to do it. So,
Do you,
I think we just have to work within reasonableness with the new homeowners to, they'll meet our objectives, and create a safe environment.
you want these, you need these back?
Keep them
or-
if you'd like.
Yeah, why don't we
we'll
just,
put
we'll
them
just
with
keep them in the file.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we would do is just,
we need,
you need
what
a
was
vote.
this for?
Minor modification.
Minor modification.
At 13
We
trees.
need to vote on that as a minor modification to allow what the homeowners requested with replacing by a reasonable number, approximately, what did I say, 8 to 10
Reasonable.
shrubbery type vegetation. So move that.
I'll move that.
Second.
Any further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. 500. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So we'll just send you a letter
Great,
with that.
okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
Hope you enjoyed your evening.
Very informative, it was
Yeah.
entertaining, to say the
It's
least.
been fun.
That's one way to describe it, I guess.
Thanks again.
Good night. You see, it could be later.
But wait, there's more.
Okay, and you're for,
2 Lower Drive,
okay?
request of certificate of compliance. There's that project. My name is Mark Morano, I'm with Oak Hill Engineering. I don't know if you have to read something in that, guys.
No,
No.
not for certificate of compliance.
Oh, here it is, Metco.
So this was a replacement of a septic system, failed septic system to the rear of the house.
Okay, this is up off of
Apple tree.
Apple Tree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
in front of Apple Tree.
Yeah.
Yep, the system was put in, it was completed.
And then we had asked them to create a wall and,
Yeah, they did a little bit more additional wall, than what it's just the way the slopes worked out. Posts are in, plantings are in, and it's already vegetating in the area that we went in and pulled the dead trees that were in there out. And I actually like what he did at the toe of the slope. It was, I mean, this whole area is outwash. So,
Yeah.
it's smaller size stone, so we actually use it like kind of like look at the corner end. So, for the future homeowner, if they, it's gonna be difficult to encroach in there because of the millions smaller stones that.
right. So, yeah, so I recommend you issue a certificate of compliance.
Okay, someone want to make that a motion?
I'll move that.
Second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye,
Aye.
opposed, abstained, 500. Thank you for waiting.
Tomorrow by 10 a.m.
You can't do it by 9:30?
Do a
We're on by
drive-through.
10, wow.
Drive-through.
Second floor is a little hard.
Any way to control, people's backyards. Some towns, they have a no structure policy in the bylaw, where they have no structure within 75 feet of the bordering vegetated wetlands. So then you can put up to 25, but it gives you the 50 to 20.
That would be hard to pass in this town, wouldn't it?
Mm.
What town has that?
Seacon, Swansea,
Rehoboth,
Rehoboth is in.
where I'm originally from, actually. Where's that?
Okay, so that's
I think it's
that.
Swansea, you can't even, for new construction, you can't put a septic system within 100 feet
Wow,
in the reserve.
wow.
Really?
They must
That's
actually
actually-
have that through town meeting. Wow.
What's their zoning, lot size?
It changes in different districts, they are larger sized.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's,
A lot bigger.
yeah, you gotta have bigger lots for that kind of rule.
But see, these were tiny little lots, and that's bothered me from the beginning, that,
This is that,
oh, but it's like, oh, people don't need these backyards,
No.
they're in their house watching television or something.
well, this is why they built that whole subdivision was
Do you have
the,
fences? I've never done new construction, but do you have to put-
We required split rail fences with no alteration signs or posts.
Yep.
we used to use split rail fences, but they don't last that long. So,
Did I already ask you this? Do you work with my father's business, Otis Dyer?
Yeah, I know,
Rachel?
yeah, I've worked with Rachel on a couple projects. I grew up in Seacon, so.
okay,
Okay.
Um,
We need to do something
minutes?
with 1900 Main Street.
we gotta, is this it? No, that's not it.
No, it's right here.
I need something to read. Haven't had enough. Town of Walpole notice intent Conservation Commission public hearing, accordance to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, Town of Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Those who are given the intent of Supercars LLC for the construction of a parking lot associated stormwater located in 1900 Main Street, Walpole, Mass. Plans are filed with the Conservation Commission office. Public hearing, the above matter will be held in Walpole Town Hall. Town Hall, 135 School Street, December 12th, 2018, beginning 9 PM. So the person requests to be present. And no one is here for 1900 Main Street for supercars, so we have to decide what we want to do. Did you get any input from?
I did not. I asked Cindy and she was going to look into it and she didn't get back to me. I don't think Jim was in today and I didn't catch him yesterday, so I'm not sure, that something is going on, but I don't.
I asked Landis to check with the town manager what may be going on that would influence what decision we would make. I guess before we come up with any, I think, an ultimatum, and then if we don't get response, that we would incorporate fines, I think we need to get some clarification, if they can give it to us, because I think when the Board of Selectmen discussed this, it was under executive session, so they may not be able to tell us anything. But I thought we should know before we do anything. So, I don't know, anybody have any other comments?
I think it's gone on long enough.
Yeah, I'd like to move it off of dead center. How have we contacted them? Do we just advise them that they're on the agenda, such and such a date, such time?
So I email them and then I send them certified mail to their most recent address of where they live and their 1900 Main Street.
So they definitely have gotten notice of when they're on our agenda.
Sometimes a green card comes back, sometimes it doesn't, so. I request red receipts, but I don't get a red receipt back
Red receipt?
on an email.
Red
Oh,
receipts, yeah.
okay. Oh, I see.
Huh.
All right, I guess what have you done? Just told them they're on the agenda at such and such a time?
Yep, I usually put it in a copy of it in the file.
Okay. I think we should ask them for a response to, put them on the agenda for the 25th, ask them for a response as to if they intend to be here. We are trying to decide what action to take regarding their application. Because right now we have
I have
notice
a
of
different
intent.
idea. How about we, if there was an executive session about them, and if we think we have some possibility of finding out in 1 or 2 or 3 weeks what all happened, that we postpone any more certified mail or receipts or anything and that kind of stuff, and filling up the folder with requests to respond. And let's see if we can find out what's going on a different way. Let's not put them on the agenda next time.
So then they aren't aware that if they did want to come, that they're not on the agenda?
Are they the sort that are like eager to come?
They
and it's
usually
sort of like,
check, I'm
"Gee,
sure. I'm sure they
Is there
check
any way I
the,
can come to
yeah.
Concom tonight?
Yeah, I'm sure they do. Probably every day, looking at when their next appointment
I'm
is.
just not so sure another round of two certified letters plus a receipt, email kind of thing is, and seeing them yet again on the agenda and then discussing them yet again at 10 o'clock at night.
Well, I think
Okay,
that
sorry, Nick.
just,
Almost.
that's it. Just ignores it, puts it off. I think if we need, ask them for a response.
I thought it was in the hands of.
What if we just asked them for a response but didn't put them on until October?
I don't, as far as dates, I just think we want to get moved. If we deny their application, what happens? Then we send them a violation notice because they haven't complied with the stormwater management?
Yeah. So you'd close the hearing and issue a denial based on lack of information and, send them a letter stating that, but that they're still, under the enforcement order, supposed to address stormwater management, as required.
Okay, and what's the consequence if they don't respond to the stormwater management? That's the point. I think we're getting, you need to have,
Right, well, they're being non-responsive in both ways, so I think putting them, I sort of agree that putting them on the agenda and sending them certified mail, which is costing the town money, is not doing anything. It's their responsibility to respond to the filing, not our responsibility to constantly remind them of it. So,
Right.
I would, perhaps agree that it should be closed and denied, and they should be told that, and, but they're still, then we go back to they still have to address the stormwater management. They'd have to refile. They want to move forward. I mean, at this point, they seem to be in violation of everything.
Yeah.
And
All right.
nobody seems to be able to get it,
all right, I would
Fixed.
suggest that we put them on our agenda for the next meeting, send them the letter that if we don't hear a response, that we will deny it for lack of information and response, at which point they are then still liable for stormwater management. They'll have to refile, and if they don't refile, there will be fines. They just lay it out, 1, 2, 3, this is what's gonna happen if we don't get a response.
Okay.
Is that all right? I think rather than just deny it without telling them we're gonna deny it, at least give them the information and what their consequences are.
Has this sort of thing happened in the past
Oh,
where,
yeah.
Oh, this,
Oh, yeah, the
this,
last 10 years.
I mean, just so we're consistent with
this,
how we handle it?
now this site has been going on for 20 years.
Long time.
same
Is it-
station, different, no.
Yeah, is
Same
that all
station,
right?
different show.
Is that all right to do with that?
Yeah.
You all right with that, Betsy?
Sure.
Okay,
Surely.
okay.
Show,
So we'll
different station?
we'll put them on the agenda for, 8,
What he wants?
Oh,
8:05.
Yes, I have it.
8:05 on
Close enough.
the September 25th. If we don't get a response, we will deny their notice of intent for lack of information. They are still responsible for stormwater management, and if we don't get, and we'll have to refile a notice of intent. And that, in addition, they are still subject to meeting the requirements of stormwater management, and fines will ensue if it is not, if they do not proceed accordingly. All right? Got it?
Got it.
Okay,
Got it?
good.
I
So-
never understood how they could put what they're proposing in anyways, so.
Well,
I think it's all
Maybe
sort
part of the
of like.
problem. Anyhow, all right, do we need to, you want to vote on that, or is it just adequate the way it is?
That's adequate, yeah, you don't have to. vote on
Okay. Okay, anybody have anything else? What else we got there?
Minutes?
and extensions.
Minutes. Someone want to move the minutes
We will.
from August 14th?
We have 2 more enforcements, by the way, but,
Oh,
yeah, but anyway.
well, all right, move the minutes
Yeah,
from,
yeah. I'll move the minutes.
okay, we got a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. Okay, so they're okay. Where are we? Enforcements. Boyden Estates. Nothing new has happened there. There's a court date for Tuesday. So we'll see what comes up. But I don't believe that the applicant has done anything recent.
He's not in full compliance.
So let's see what happens.
The Patriots Tavern, again, we got a letter from them asking to be put on the next agenda because they're still collecting information.
Are they putting a parking lot there?
That I know.
Well, not at the
The
moment.
paving?
It looks like they might be, right? They took down the trees
They
there,
took down all the trees.
adjacent to their parking lot?
Yeah.
It sure looks
And-
like that's what they want.
And their parking lot is always maxed out, and
Right.
people are like struggling to find
Right.
place.
So I was puzzled why they
It's
said
so
that they weren't
speculative, but it
putting
seems
a
like
parking lot.
that's their intent.
So they cut down the trees and I talked to the owner and he hired a environmental group who sent us, who is in the process of reviewing the area. I don't know why it's taking them so long, personally, for, to delineate the wetlands and to address the cutting of the vegetation, with my conversation being with a replanting plan.
Do they need to file a notice with that, or just tell us,
No,
come
it's,
in with a plan?
should be under the enforcement.
Okay,
Come in with a
so
plan. I don't-
you can respond to them and tell them they're on the agenda, and we expect a response? We expect someone
Next
to be
time.
here with a,
Yes, or else.
or else, or we will consider fines.
Okay.
It's been how long?
It's been,
It goes back
this
to
was the
June?
second meeting,
It's
so.
like a month.
More than
It's
that.
been,
Oh, yeah. Well, like a month. and a
Probably
half.
June,
oh,
so I think it goes back to
it's been a
June.
while.
That the activity occurred back then.
Okay.
All right. Certificate we did, right? Yes, we did that. Request for extension. Any reason not to extend these?
Nope.
Okay, so we want to move lot 15 Evergreen Lane.
I'll
That's-
move that.
or 15 Evergreen, okay, we got a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. 12 Arlington Lane, so want to move that for
I'll
an
move that.
extension? We got a
Second.
second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye, opposed, abstained, 500. Lost Brook Trail, someone want to
I'll
move
move
that?
that.
Second.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500. Wall Street Development, Boyden Estates subdivision.
I'll move
Did
that.
we, wait a minute.
Well, she says extend.
Well, actually, that one, did you?
This is the
clarify
bylaw.
that? It's just the bylaw. He finally sent us the check after we reduced it considerably, so.
Okay,
I
so he
never
did, he did,
tried to-
he did send a check.
He did.
Okay.
Yeah,
and-
it's already signed. You signed it under the contingent upon him paying the
Okay.
other fee.
So we have already voted
You already
that.
voted it.
So,
Yeah, I
yeah,
thought
I-
you voted yet, but
Okay.
you did.
I just
you
never
voted
put a
it and
date
signed
on it.
Said you'll send it to him when he gets the
Okay.
check,
So
so.
that's,
We now have the check, so.
okay, so that's all straightened out now, okay.
You don't need to vote on that at all.
No, we don't need to vote on that.
All right, so, all right, so we just,
That was good, Jack. That was rapid fire. That was great. Now you still sign them
I'm
all.
glad you approved.
As far as the board comments, there's, well, I have no idea what 900 buses are.
Stop.
This is mine.
Is it even her property? Does it even exist?
Bid car is, came before us tonight, so that's comments to the planning board. Sycamore Heights is a preliminary subdivision plan that is not within jurisdiction of the Conservation Commission, but we could send them a letter just saying that they may need the land disturbance permit.
Landis, what is going up across from the Red Wing? There's a big building going up on.
Is that the storage unit?
Is that what? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I forget.
It's got a green fence
Yeah, that's what that is.
off of Fox Hill. That's the one off of Fox Hill.
Yeah. Okay. I forgot. I couldn't remember.
The old cemetery.
The old cemetery that wasn't.
Is that what?
Islamic burial.
Yeah.
Now you can store them
Yeah.
in a building.
Those are
Store 'em in
done.
The car wash is coming along. I see that.
Yeah,
So we're
yeah, the
done
car
with-
wash is coming along. They found that the town had a sewer main that went across the corner of it with no easement.
Oh,
Oh no.
wow.
Oops. Oops.
And we knew there was a gas line that went across there, supposedly abandoned.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's been more of a challenging site than I thought.
Okay. Anything else? You got everything done here? Okay. You would just suggest that everybody take a look at all this information that we got from, about Burns Avenue and
I didn't sign those yet.
try to come up with questions that are,
I got read.
that are pertinent to the discussion. So,
Okay. Should make a packet for it.
if there's
Yeah, we should
any,
send some.
Yeah.
if there's any, I guess, questions that anybody has, can ask Landis for clarification. You gonna be around?
Yeah, I'll be around most of the
Okay.
time. I'm around. Yep.
Okay.
So yep.
Okay. All right.
I've been busy. I mean, it's just
Yeah, that's what kind
Yeah.
of bugs me. They bring stuff in on Friday, which is a half a day to begin with, so there goes that day.
yeah,
And then
yeah.
you say, well, you've had it. And there's
And
a
then
lot
we got,
of piles
you know,
of stuff.
piles from the Remnar redo and
Crazy.
piles from the Swan Pond redo and
Okay, so someone want
Rolls
to
Royce.
Rolls Royce. Yeah. so
close the, adjourn?
I'll move to do it.
I'll second that.
Okay, are we done?
Well, all in favor? Aye.
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 We're done?